going on, guys? Welcome to part 2 of this EQS tutorial. So we've already set up our basics stuff here with our behavior tree. We got a character, we got an AI controller, we've got an environment query, but and you can see here, but let's see, how in the world do we actually see what in the hell this thing is doing? Well, in order to do that, they have a special actor that you have to make, that you can place in the world so you can see this. And if you type EQS, it's called the EQS testing pawn. Okay, so we're going to create that one, okay, and we'll name it as such, EQS testing pawn. Now inside of here you basically get nothing, but what you do get is an EQ render comp. Now this is not the character that you want to try to create. You notice you get no details. You can't do anything with anything in here. Okay, this is not something you're supposed to do anything with. This is something for you to look at. At least this is as far as I understand. But what you can do is you can place this guy down, and then pick your query template here. And what you see is that if I move it up a little bit, it's generating a grid of dots, okay, and it's scoring them. And what it's doing is, you notice here that this one's got 1 point and it's got a value of 1, and that is because it cannot see that. Okay, right now this is the only point it cannot see. Okay, so if I put this out, like, I don't know, I don't even think I have a spot for it, but you can see that I've only got 1 point here that cannot be seen, that's within this grid radius, and that's this guy right here. Okay, so it knows where this point cannot see. Okay, these 2 points are basically equal value. It go one way or the other. I don't know how it chooses between equal scored stuff, but I'd assume that it's just like, hey, just pick any one of them. But we do a little bit of a check on that to also help. So if you want to see what your query is actually returning, you can do this kind of stuff here. Okay, so again, it cannot see this point. It also can't see this point here, and I'm not sure if that's a bug or not. It should have projected that upwards, but because this point right here it can clearly see, right? So I don't think it's perfect yet, but it works pretty good. I put it over here, everything's coming out as 1. That's kind of weird. These are 1. It also doesn't seem to create points in certain places, but what you'll see is that if I come over here, if I say let's do a density of like 150, I think I just crashed. I do believe I just crashed. Did I crash? Click. Feels like I crashed. No, it just took a little while. Okay, you can see I have a finer grid of dots here. Okay, it's actually completely filtering out a bunch of them. So as I move around, okay, this is weird. Like, I guess when it can't detect anything, it scores everything as 1. I would assume that it should score everything as 0 if it can. See right here, there's nothing that I can't see within the radius. Actually, I would assume that I couldn't see over here. Like, I'm not really sure why it does that. I don't fully understand this whole thing or how it works. It's still experimental. It is gonna work. It's just this display thing has always kind of confused me. But we're not actually quite done yet. So that is, if you want to see what it's doing, just create the EQS testing pawn. Again, you can find that here. Just type EQS, and there it is, EQS testing pawn. Make that the parent class, and then name it whatever, and then you can stick it out in the world. But in our case, we can use it to figure out the best queries and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the query itself. Now actually the other thing that we need to do is we need to create some test contexts, and like I said, the context context is basically defining which actor we want to trace around. And the reason is because we want to do two traces. We want to trace not what this dickhead can't see, we want to trace what we can't see. But we want to test out of those points which are the closest to this guy, right? He wants to know which is the closest point for him to run to, but he wants to know which point you can't see. So that's why we need to create a test for him and for us. So what we'll do is we'll create a blueprint, and if we type env here, we get environment query context blueprint base. Now I know, you know, EQS, it can be kind of hard to find, but if you don't type anything in here, I believe that the environment query stuff is on this list somewhere. I don't really want to go through the list and try to find it, but I just know that if you type env, you can do this query context. Okay, so what we'll do is we will select that, and I'm going to do this, call this EQS context, I'll call him bot. Okay, and when we open this up, you'll see that there's nothing here, and what we have over here though are some functions. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to provide an actor. Okay, now if you notice, I can't drag this out and I can't double click on it, but I can right click on it and implement the function. Now because we're testing against ourselves, basically we want our querying actor just to tie right in, compile, save. This is for ourselves. We just tie ourselves right in. Okay, hopefully this becomes clear in just a second. We now make another blueprint, and again env query context. Okay, and we'll call this EQS context player. Okay, we open this one up, again we implement this function, and this time we're gonna get the player pawn, and we're gonna feed it that, compile and save. And that's all we're gonna do. Now when we go to our actual environment query here, what we can do on visibility is on context we actually can pick now these things because they exist. So we're going to pick against the player. We'll save that. Now this guy, he isn't going to know shit because we don't have a player in the world. Okay, we don't have a player in here. I'm not sure that this is going to work, but I'm going to try and play, and yeah, it doesn't show up in game. Let me do this and pause it and then hit G. Yeah, apparently I don't know, maybe there's a setting I can use to draw it in game or something, but that is how you can go about showing the query, and this is how you can go about when you make these contexts again like this. This is how you can tell the query who are you testing against, and that would be the context here. Again, myself, bot. Querier and bot are actually essentially the same thing, I believe, because it would be himself, but I tend to make one for itself just in case, just one for each kind of character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and end this part here. Again, I'm keeping it short, so this part was just kind of showing you guys how you can visualize it, and then how you can tell it which object to actually use. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next part.